Hello and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family. I am Master Paul, and tonight we are actually going to be talking about three Christmas movies. Give me a quick second to put them into the banners here. And this was initially going to be we were going to talk about It's a Wonderful Life on Friday. I can't remember. Actually, no, I do remember. It was just one of those days that I needed the extra rest, and so we didn't do it that day. So we're talking about It's a Wonderful Life today, as well as A Christmas Story Christmas and Miracle on 34th Street. The original version, that is. So, the order we're going to talk about them tonight is we're going to talk about A Christmas Story Christmas first. Then we're going to talk about Miracle on 34th Street. Then we're going to finish it with It's a Wonderful Life. So, these three movies, all of them are, of course, are me seeing them for the first time. And A Christmas Story Christmas, I think I heard about it first from, of course, my friend Pacific 414. And he said that it was really good. But initially I was thinking, okay, it's cool that there's an officially acknowledged sequel to the classic A Christmas Story. Obviously, there was A Christmas Story 2 that came out years ago, but that one, from what I understand, is not good. So this movie pretty much erases that movie. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed that one a lot. And then Miracle on 34th Street was one I had never... I've seen the remake, the one that came out in, I believe, 1995. I had seen that one years ago. And I can't remember exactly how I felt about that one. I remember liking it enough. But this version, the original, is amazing. And then finally, It's a Wonderful Life. I'll go into a little bit more about it when we get to this movie. But just know that It's a Wonderful Life was so good, and I enjoyed it so much that toward the end, I was actually getting kind of misty-eyed. And for me, with movies, that rarely ever happens. So yes, the movie ranking for this set of three movies is going to be pretty interesting. So with that, let's go ahead and get into A Christmas Story Christmas. Now, the first A Christmas Story, we have to set a little bit of a scene here before we get into this A Christmas Story Christmas. So the first Christmas Story takes place in, I believe, the 1940s, and it centers around a little kid named Ralphie. And it's the story of the build up to Christmas and wanting that one gift that you always dreamed of. In his case, a little Red Ryder lever action BB gun that everyone has had at some point. Even I've had one. And it's just the quest of him growing up in school, wanting this BB gun, and at every which way he turns, it seems like the door is slammed into his face as far as getting one. We all know the classic line, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid." And then, of course, a long bit of shenanigans later on Christmas morning, he wakes up and he gets the BB gun. Well, A Christmas Story Christmas follows Ralphie, played by the same actor. In fact, let me look up his name just so that I don't get this mixed up. Yep. Okay, so I got it. So the same actor that played Ralphie first, Peter Billingsley. There we go. He is back now playing Ralphie as an adult around the same age as his dad was, his old man, back in the first movie. And we see Ralphie now has a wife named Sandy, and he has two kids named Mark and Julie. And they celebrate, well, they live now in Chicago, and Ralphie is trying to cultivate a successful career as an author. And unfortunately, his manuscript for his book has been getting rejected left, right, and center by all the publishers around the area. And he had made a bet with his wife that if he couldn't, or not a bet, a deal. He had made a deal with his wife that they would save up enough money for him to take pretty much the year off from work and focus on being a writer. But if by the end of the year he couldn't get a publishing deal, he would go back to work. Well, it's approaching Christmas time, and no one's picked him up as a publisher. So they're getting ready for Christmas, and it's made a big deal that Ralphie's parents always make a trip from Homan up to Chicago to visit them over Christmas. But this year, tragically, Ralphie gets a phone call from his mother because his father had passed away. So, what do? Of course, this rocks Ralphie right down to his core. And Phil McCracken is in the chat saying, "Never fear, I am here." You're right, absolutely. And to that, I say this. Nah, for real, it's good that you're here, Phil. And hey, the link is in the chat. If you have seen these movies and want to talk about them with me, you are of course welcome to. It is right here. In fact, did I pin it in the chat? Let me double check see if I did. Yes, I did. Good. Okay. So anyways, Ralphie packs up his whole family in the car. And this old Plymouth, by the way, that has a bad radiator. And that is important. And just as a side note, we learned something that I had never heard. We see this little nifty trick that he does with his car to keep it running with its bum radiator. Phil says, I might be able to join if you're still going on. I probably will. By then, I'll be talking about It's a Wonderful Life. But hey, man, if you can get in touch with Crid or Cash Money or someone, send them my way. But anyways, there's this trick that he does to keep his car running with the bad radiator. Something that I had never heard of, which is shocking considering my dad is an auto tech teacher and grew up with these sorts of cars. Apparently, it's possible to take an egg, a raw egg, and crack it down into the opening in your radiator, and the egg will be in there pretty much cooking itself, and it'll seal up your radiator long enough to keep it running to the next pit stop. I didn't know this, and it's one of those things where I wouldn't wish a bad radiator on anyone, but at the same time, I would kind of like to see it in action myself. But anyways, they make it eventually back to home and back to Cleveland Street, where Ralphie's old house was. And I do have to mention this too. They recreate the set from the first movie amazingly. And even down to the details of the house. Now, they do not use the actual house. The actual house does exist. In fact, I'm going to bring it up now. I learned this from my dad, that the Christmas Story house is an actual place that you can go and visit. So check this out real quick. And it's for sale too. Wow. Okay, that I did not know. So, yeah. Apparently, this is, so it says here, A Christmas Story house, now restored to its movie splendor, is open year-round to the public for tours and overnight stays. Directly across the street from the house is A Christmas Story Museum, which features original props, costumes, and memorabilia from the film, as well as hundreds of rare behind-the-scenes photos. Among the props and costumes are the toys from the Higbee's window, Randy's snowsuit. We all remember that, the whole, I can't put my arms down, that thing. The chalkboard for Miss Shield's classroom. I wonder if it still has all those pluses on it. And the family car. After reliving A Christmas Story at Ralphie's house, don't forget to visit the museum gift shop for your own major award leg lamp and other great movie memorabilia. You can even shop through our online gift shop here. Proceeds from the gift shop and overnight stays help and support and maintain a Christmas Story house and museum. So yeah, you can actually go here. Does it say anything? We don't see any. Doesn't show any pictures that I can see in here. All right, that's fine. We don't. This was just a little side tangent, is all. And hello in the chat to Alan Copeland. Thanks for joining. So I bring all of that up to say that, yeah, they probably could have used that house for this movie, but they didn't. They instead chose to completely recreate the set elsewhere. I believe even in another country or something. I don't remember where exactly, but they did it so very well. And I'm going to go ahead and say this now too. We've seen it now that I can count 3 times that a sequel will come out bringing back the original cast of the original movie, and it's actually a very worthy successor. Actually, no, I count 4 times. So we've had now Cobra Kai, Top Gun Maverick, Ghostbusters Afterlife, obviously not in that order, and now A Christmas Story Christmas. And myself and everyone that I've talked with on other YouTube channels and this one, we've said it every which way to Sunday. There are so many reboots and sequels out there that bring back the original cast only to poo-poo on them and, elevate up the new cast for whatever message that may or may not be there. This is not one of those movies, thankfully. This is a well-made sequel that honors the original one in a truly, heartfelt way. So, like I said, they arrive at the original house. And of course, Ralphie's mom, who I do not believe is played by the same actress this time around. Let me double check that. Okay, so Melinda Dillon plays Ralphie's mom in the first one, and Julie Haggerty plays his mom in the second one. And if I'm not mistaken, the reason that the actress that played her the first time around didn't come back is because she was completely retired from acting, which, fair enough. You want to enjoy your retirement. That's understandable. But at the same time, Julie Haggerty did such a good job at capturing how Miss Melinda did with the first portrayal of Ralphie's mom that at times I was legit questioning, is this the same person, or is this, like, I can tell it's not, but at the same time, I can see where she very well could have been the original actress. She did that good of a job. So she gets there, and of course you can tell she's in the middle of grief because, she had just lost her husband. But she makes it a point to mention to Ralphie that she does not want this Christmas to be overshadowed by them grieving the loss of her husband, Ralphie's dad. She wants this to be the best Christmas ever, a Christmas that they will never forget, and pretty much places that on Ralphie's shoulders. And that's pretty much Ralphie's struggle throughout the whole movie, because he's always seen his dad as like the true go-getter when it comes to Christmas. His dad is the reason that Christmas always was amazing. And let's be honest, we kind of see our own parents like that too. Obviously the whole Santa Claus and all that stuff, but even if you do believe in Santa Claus, you know that your parents got you gifts too. And sometimes they were better gifts than Santa Claus brought. But anyways, what happens when someone that's been a part of Christmas and was a major contributor to Christmas being so amazing and cherished? What happens when one piece of that puzzle is no longer in the picture? And real quick, hello to Leia Rose. Thanks for joining. And as much as we all know what it's like to see our parents as basically the reason Christmas is so amazing as far as, making it memorable, we also know to some degree, whether it's parents, grandparents, or somehow else, or someone, that is unfortunate that there was a Christmas that came one year where you look up and you realize, oh no, this person that's been part of Christmas all of my life isn't here anymore. And without going into too much detail, that's been pretty much every Christmas for me since 2010. I lost well, again, like I said, not going into too much detail. So, Ralphie, on top of all of this, has been tasked by, I believe, either his mom or the newspaper. I want to say it's the newspaper, to write an official obituary for his dad, because everyone, in his hometown thinks he's such a big writer, because he's too scared to share that he has been rejected time after time for his manuscript. So, he feels like he's in over his head, but he accepts the task of writing his dad's obituary. Excuse me. Now, throughout the course of the movie, we do see various callbacks to the first movie. For example, we do meet up again with Flick and Schwartz. In fact, the same actors that played them come back. Now, for those that don't remember, Flick is the one in the first movie that got his tongue stuck to the frozen telephone pole, and Schwartz is the one that Triple Dog dared him to do it. Flick nowadays runs the local bar, the most popular of the local bars, actually. And Schwartz is kind of a bum, unfortunately, and he has the biggest bar tab there. So we see Ralphie catch up with them. We see Ralphie take his family to Higbee's, and his kids meet Santa. And yes, by the way, that big set of them having to climb up the stairs to meet Santa and then get sent down that slide, that comes back. Although that we know of, no one cries this time seeing Santa. But there was a scene of a kid in front of Ralphie's kids in line that's eaten this giant lollipop that's seriously as big as his head. He finishes the whole thing by the time he gets to Santa, but by the time he gets to Santa, he loses his lunch and therefore doesn't get to meet Santa. So while that's going on, of course, we see Ralphie doing like many parents do when they're Christmas shopping. He's like hunting through the mall, like, I gotta find this, I gotta find this, I gotta find this. And, he succeeds. However, on the way home, the car breaks down because, bad radiator, and they're out of eggs. So they just have to let the car cool down naturally. And so while they do this, they have a snowball fight, and the family's having fun until Ralphie accidentally hits his son a bit too hard and knocks him. Actually, no, I take it back. He hits his daughter a bit too hard, and she ends up having to go to the hospital and she basically walks out with an eye patch because he smacked her right there. And there was this really funny scene, by the way, where there is this one guy that's sitting in the waiting room of the ER, and he's in serious pain because his left hand is literally stuck in a glass cookie jar. And this is a bigger guy too, so he can't get his hand out. And if I was one of the ER doctors, I'm guessing what they did. If there's any medical professionals out watching this, feel free to chime in. But if I was in that situation, I would pretty much just find something to safely, obviously, just shatter the glass around him. Like, I don't know if there's a nurse or a doctor watching this. Like, what would you do if you were in that situation where you had a patient come into your ER and their hand is caught in this glass jar and they cannot pull it out? What would you do? Put that in the comments. So, by the time they come out of the hospital, however, they look inside their trunk and all the presents that Ralphie had just bought are gone. And this is a big deal, A, because the kids don't know it. They're too busy playing around in the back seats. And B, because they had a very strict budget set aside for buying presents, and they don't have that money anymore because, they've been living on a tight budget with Ralphie out of work, trying to be an author. And Leia Rose says, use butter. Yeah, butter, soap, just something to, I guess you could say, grease the skids and just pop. So Ralphie now has to figure out, what are we going to do now? And they try to explain to their kids, listen, guys, you might have to lower your, basically they try and pretty much what they're saying is, I'm sorry, guys, if this Christmas is going to be disappointing. They try and frame it around, the whole notion of, let's be thankful for what we already have. And I like how Ralphie's narration, which does come back in this, I like how Ralphie's narration basically says the kids aren't buying this. They see through this right away. And indeed, the kids do. So, get a drink here. Shoot. I dropped my bottle cap. So anyways, we get more callbacks to the first movie throughout all of this. For example, we find out that Randy, Ralphie's little brother, is now a successful traveling millionaire and is currently spending this Christmas in India. We see this really intense scene. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say intense, but funny scene where Flick actually gets revenge on Schwartz for Triple Dog daring him into getting his tongue frozen to that light pole, where there is this old ramp that, if I remember correctly, the movie described it as a structure meant for some sort of government construction project that got abandoned. It's literally just an overgrown slide. And when it freezes over, it is the slickest surface ever. And so Flick Triple Dog dares Schwartz as a bet to pay off his bar tab. He Triple Dog dares Schwartz to ride down that hill, that ramp, with a sled. He does, and gets knocked out for a bit for it, but other than that, He's okay. However, during all of this, while everyone's out sledding, Ralphie's son ends up breaking his left arm. So now there's more medical bills that he has to pay. And pretty much this whole time, Ralphie, he's doing everything he can to make this the best Christmas possible for his family, as any father would. But he's growing more and more overwhelmed that seemingly just everything is falling apart. And this is symbolized no better than when they're decorating the tree and they try and put the star on the tree, but the star falls and shatters. And they don't have any glue to fix it. And this is Christmas Eve, too. Christmas Eve night. And so Ralphie says, you know what? I'm frustrated, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a star because I'm going to make this the best Christmas ever, whether it kills me or not. And so what does he do? But he commits breaking and entering on Flick's bar and steals the star off their tree. And who should catch him as he's walking out? But Ralphie's old childhood bully, Scut Farkus, who is now a police officer. And I saw this coming a mile away, but what happens with Scut Farkus is, at first, they make him seem super duper intimidating. And by the way, they do bring back the same actor for Scut Farkus. They make it seem like he wants to get revenge for getting the tar beaten out of him by Ralphie when they were just kids. But turns out that he's actually there to just take Ralphie home, and even gives him back the star that he stole, because it's Christmas and movie logic. Obviously, a real police officer wouldn't do that. But basically, he says, ever since you beat the tar out of me, it really opened my eyes to what sort of person that I was, and it helped me get onto the straight and narrow, and, well, I realized that I was only acting like that because that's the way that my dad acted with me. So Ralphie and Scut basically mend fences, and come to find out, Christmas morning, everyone gets what they wanted for Christmas, including a new radiator for the Plymouth because, and one thing that I had forgot to mention this whole time, but we do see the Bumpus Hounds again, and of course now the Bumpus Hounds are obsessed with Ralphie, when they were for his dad. But not only that, but we meet the child of one of the Bumpuses. And Ralphie's daughter basically blackmails him into giving her a new radiator to give to her dad for Christmas. Oh, also, by the way, Ralphie's kids, I forgot to mention, do have a run-in with their own bully, and they solve it in their own way, not by getting into a fight. See, these bullies, what they like to do is run around on a snowmobile and knock down snowmen that other people build. So what they do is they build a snowman around a tree stump. The bullies don't see the tree stump. They run over the snowman and crash their snowmobile. By the way, hello to Nova Vaughn. What's up? And we will not be having any of those dating bots, please. Thank you. Let me just make sure. Okay. Oh my goodness. Really? Stop that. Thank you, Alan Copeland. Greatly appreciate that. So anyways, and also hello to DJ Ronnie G. Thank you for joining. We are right now talking about A Christmas Story Christmas, and we got 2 more movies to go through after this. So, Christmas morning, everyone gets what they want. His son gets the sled that he wants. The girl gets the stuffed cat that she wants, and I think something else. And Ralphie even gets in a sense, the writing career that he wants, because toward the end of the movie, he finally sits down and buckles down to write this obituary for his dad. And it's this really touching scene at the end where Ralphie sits down in his dad's old chair, and Nova says, "Is Die Hard on the list?" Yes, it's on the list. In fact, we'll watch and review Die Hard sometime this week. Tentatively, we're going to watch and review Die Hard on Thursday, but stay tuned for further details on that. Anyways, though, Ralphie sits in his dad's chair and reads the obituary that he wrote for his father. And it is not at all your traditional obituary where it just lists out the facts of so and so passed away on such and such day, such and such time, they are survived by such and such members of their family. No, it's him pouring out his heart and remembering all of these different memories of his father, especially when it comes to his father at Christmas time and how he provided. And I do have to interrupt this emotional scene and bring in, I cannot believe he is using this name, Atlantic 525.
What can I say? It's a good name.
It is a good name.
Know,
but you know
and
what?
It makes sense because I'm on the Atlantic coast. It doesn't make sense for someone to be on that's using Pacific that's on the Atlantic coast.
You're right, but you know what else is a good name? Phil McCracken.
Oh, God bless. It's a legend. It's a legend.
Yep. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing okay.
That's good. So, all three of the movies that we're talking about, you have seen, correct?
Just for the record, name the three movies again.
So, the three movies we're talking about, A Christmas Story Christmas, and that's the one that I'm on now, but I'm about to wrap it up. Miracle on 34th Street, the original, and It's a Wonderful Life.
Seen the first two, tried to see the third one with you, but then the robotics kicked in.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Hopefully we get to watch that again.
We will.
Finish it.
But before, you had seen it before, right?
Never seen that one before. I've seen the original. I haven't seen the Christmas Story. Christmas Story.
Okay, fair enough.
And I notice you're moved up in the world. You got porn bots in your chat. You have officially made it, Paul. You are a YouTube superstar.
Dude, these are nothing new, for real. I've been getting them pretty much since day one. But anyways, getting back to what I was talking about, like I said, I'm wrapping up talking about A Christmas Story Christmas. So for your sake, since you haven't seen it, I am going to play this. I know it's a bit late.
Ooh, cool. Yeah. You got new buttons to push.
What are you talking about? I've had this. I just don't use it enough.
Well, I've never experienced spoiler alert flashing across the screen.
Yep. Yes, you're right. You know what else you haven't experienced? The realization that this man can actually throw a punch.
Damn you!
So, Picard has to beat up an old man, and you justify it. More proof of the
other. What do you mean old man? They're the same age.
No, he can't be the same age if that's his older brother.
The actors.
Justifying elderly abuse.
Well, Phil.
He picked on somebody weaker than him.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Having a stoner to take you up your calls ain't helping none, Paul.
If you've got an issue, here's a tissue.
Okay, I can go with that one.
All right, fair enough. But anyways, the movie, like I said, ends with Ralphie reading his dad's obituary from his father's chair. And everyone likes the writing that reads the paper so much. The paper offers him a writing gig, asking, "Hey, we love this story about your father. Do you have any more?" And so at the end of the day, even Ralphie got what he wanted for Christmas. So first off, Phil, we will be watching this movie again, absolutely.
Cool.
But as far as what I thought of it, all three of these movies I loved to absolute death. This particular movie, I'm gonna say, what do I want to rank it out of 10? I'm gonna give A Christmas Story Christmas a 9 out of 10. And
now,
there's
you've
no.
seen the original, right? You did see
Oh
the
yeah.
original.
Oh yeah. I have the original. In fact, I don't know where it is right now. Oh, it's right here. But yeah, I have the original. This one's still wrapped up, but I have it on iTunes too. So I have seen it multiple times. This is like my dad's favorite Christmas story or Christmas movie. Actually, I take that back. I think it's a competition for my dad as far as his favorite Christmas movie between this one and The Family Man, which we will be covering next week.
So when you watched the original, what did you think of the lamppost?
The Lamppost?
The lamp.
I have done that. Granted, that never.
No, I'm
Granted,
not
I
talking
did.
about sticking the tongue. I'm talking about when Ralphie's dad wins his award.
Oh, my dad has a Christmas ornament of that lamp.
They were selling. Hot Topic was selling the actual leg.
I
You can
believe
get
it's.
the actual lamp. And I can tell you, I know women that watched that and agreed with the mom that that was hideous, and applauded that the mom ended up, even though it wasn't, they say unintentionally, but breaking the lamp. That was a
Well,
hard ornament, man. I'm sorry. That was awful.
yeah. All right. Well, time for the ranking for this movie. We'll rank each one as we talk about it. So let me bring in my list here. And I'm going to say, spoiler alert, all three of these movies are going in the great movies here. And again, I want to make a clarification that this is not a ranking of quality. This is a ranking of enjoyment for those that haven't heard. I'm going to rank these. I'm going to rank A Christmas Story Christmas between Aliens and Conan the Barbarian.
I would put it under Conan the Barbarian, but that's okay.
All right. So we will minimize that for now. And let's bring in, real quick, Novus says, did you get a chance to see my stream from the other day? Unfortunately, I didn't, man, because there was quite a few days this week that I just needed to go to bed early. So it was probably on one of those days that it happened. So I'm sorry. I've just been really worn out this week with work and such.
No
So,
gaming streams, I noticed.
Yes. By the way, Phil, I believe you have a phone number to shill for.
Well, I'm not the creator or the owner of that number.
Whatever,
Or
you're the
idea, which
propagator.
I wished that I came up with something like that, but I'm going to come up with something better because I have to.
Yep. And for anyone that doesn't get the joke, don't call this number. This is not a real number. Obviously, it has 555 on it. It doesn't work. And I missed the trash can. Again.
Just remember,
All right.
vampire lives matter. They do matter.
Exactly. Why play a game killing vampires when you could play a game becoming them? But anyways, let's talk now about Miracle on 34th Street. And just so that we're on the same page, Phil, you have seen this one, right? The original black and white one.
The original black and white one, the color, and yeah, that's only two I will ever acknowledge. Because it's the same movie, they only colorized the version.
Well, hold on a second. They did remake this movie in '95.
We don't talk about that.
I saw that one years ago, and I don't even remember it, but I know for a fact I had never seen the original one So that's the one that we're talking about, specifically the black and white one.
Okay, because the two I mentioned are the exact same movie. Just one was with Mr. Turner was taking all the black and whites and he was colorizing. So I seen it in
Hmm.
black and white and I seen it in color. Though to me, the black and white is more my movie.
Yes. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this one. So the movie stars really 4 different people. There is Miss Doris Walker, her daughter Susan, a friend of theirs who's a lawyer named Fred Gailey, and then a gentleman by the name of Kris Kringle, Santa Claus. And this is a very different take than at least I was used to with Santa Claus, because for me, this is a more serious and dignified, and dare I say even regal personification of Santa Claus than I'm used to. See, I'm used to the Rankin Bass stop motion portrayals of Santa Claus, the Tim Allen portrayals of Santa Claus, where he has his serious moments, but mostly what you get is the happy jolly Santa Claus. And don't get me wrong, you do get the happy jolly moments with this Santa Claus in this movie, but he takes it very, very seriously. In fact, that you kind of get that in a nutshell from the very start of the movie, where it's Thanksgiving Day. They're getting ready for Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. First thing we see him do is criticize a store owner about what order he's putting up his reindeer decorations. And he's like going into, oh my goodness, we have more bots. And I could have sworn, yeah.
Popularity, Paul, popularity.
Moving on. So, like I said, Chris, I'm just going to call him Santa. It's easier. So Santa's is talking to this shop owner, criticizing him for what order he's putting the reindeer in. But what really sets him off is when he gets to where they're setting up for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and sees that the guy that they hired to play Santa is drinking on the job. And when I say drinking, I mean he is drunk. And of course, he tries to justify it, saying, I got to do something to keep me warm. But yeah, he raises a big fit about this, and even goes to the lady who's putting on the parade, Miss Doris Walker, who works for Macy's, and basically gets him fired. And being, without a Santa Claus at such short notice, she asks, Kris Kringle, Mr. Santa, to fill in, which he's only so willing to do. And he is the best Santa that they've ever had in the parade. Watching the parade from their balcony is Mr. Gailey and Doris's daughter, Susan. And here we learn that Susan was raised by Mrs. Walker not to believe in Santa Claus, or really to believe in anything fantasy related at all. She was raised to look at the world from a very realistic and rational point of view. So let me ask you this then, Phil. What do you think about that? The idea of raising your kid not to believe in Santa Claus from the jump?
Well, there's historical things about that. First of all, Santa Claus and Christmas was seen as Catholic. So for a lot of people who were Protestant at one time were Catholic, there was a good 200-300 years there where they wouldn't celebrate Christmas. It wasn't until like the 1800s that people from outside Catholicism and Orthodox that start celebrating Christmas. Now, how they celebrate Christmas and how other people celebrate Christmas, different things. But for the most part, most Protestants have come to accept Christmas and celebrate it. There are
Yes,
certain ones still today that will not celebrate any holiday or Christmas in general, which is their prerogative. But it
of
wasn't
course.
unheard of in the 1930s for still a lot of Protestant denominations not wanting to celebrate it. Uh, Again, over time, everything got popularized. Coca Cola, here, Macy's. Macy's is responsible big for it. They're the ones that started the parade. At the end of the parade, you see Santa Claus, but a lot of
Hmm.
people don't know this. After Santa gets done his parade, Santa goes into the Macy's stores and they start doing their, kids asking what do you want for Christmas, taking pictures
Yeah.
of Santa Claus. But traditionally, after he's done on the float, the man playing Santa Claus goes into the Macy's stores and boom, that kicks it off.
Yeah.
So
And we see that in this movie.
yeah, but I like I said, what you see is Macy's and you can say Coca Cola are the two people. There are other companies out there, but they were the two major companies that took Christmas and Santa Claus to a whole new level.
Hmm.
Okay, it took it away from as a religion thing as to a festive holiday, if we can say it that way. Yeah.
Right, where Santa Claus was transformed
Mhm.
almost unintentionally from Saint Nicholas, the figure in Catholicism,
Mhm.
to the Santa Claus that we know now.
Yes, a day. Even Macy's, you can credit with the reindeer names.
Really?
Especially Rudolph. They're the ones
Huh.
responsible for that song. Remember, before they made the Baskin Robbins animation of them, it
Hmm.
was their, I think, I'm not sure, 36 or 38 that they came up with the idea with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the Christmas Carol of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They
Let me
all
ask you this then, real quick.
go ahead.
Did they also come up with the whole "'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the house"?
No, no. That I think was in the late 1800s. That Christmas Carol, the night before Christmas, and all through. I think that was Charles Dickinson.
Hmm.
If I'm correct, I think it was Charles Dickinson.
Wait, Charles Dickens, the guy who wrote A Christmas Carol?
I think that was him that wrote that one.
Let's double check
So
this.
you can double check. I believe it's him.
It's not.
Who
It's
is
a
it?
guy by the name of Clement Clark Moore.
There you go. I'm sorry, but I believe it was written in like I want to say 1870s.
1844.
Well, I'm a little bit off there, but I know that that's the one that at the time 1834 till about 1870 is where Protestants start going back and celebrating Christmas. Uh,
Hmm.
like I said, at the time, how can I put it this way? It has to do a lot with the new people coming over from Europe. You got to remember, most of the time, the United States up that time was predominantly Protestant. So now you're
Hmm.
getting a new wave, Irish who are Catholic, uh, Italians, Poles, Germans. Both some Protestant, some were Catholic, but some of them were celebrating Christmas, and the companies, like I said, Coca Cola, Macy's, and there are other ones. They start jumping on board. Hey, this is something we can push our products. They made it more the commercial side of Christmas.
Right.
So no problem with it. It's a good thing. I don't think the man upstairs has anything against even the commercial side of Christmas. Seeing it for what it is. Uh, but it's nice to know a little of the tradition of how Christmas started and what the real meaning of it. But Santa Claus, the man who's playing Santa Claus in this movie, is playing Santa Claus. I wouldn't say the historical Santa Claus, but playing the mythological version of Santa Claus to a T. To a T.
And that's actually something I was going to get into sort of at the end of this movie.
Mhm.
So we're going to put a pin in what you just said there. We'll go through the movie and then we'll talk about that, okay?
No problem.
So, like I said, Mr. Gailey is shocked that Susan was raised to look at everything in so rational and realistic a way. It's like unheard of for at least kids of that age to look at things like that, because most kids her age would be thinking of either pirates and princesses and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all the other things that kids grow up believing in. And he tries to talk to her mom about that, but her mom sticks to her guns and says, no, this is how I choose to raise my daughter, please respect that. And so, being a gentleman, he does. So Santa, as you already described, the moment that the parade is over, he's brought into the Macy's store and he's given a checklist of basically what to do and what not to do as Santa, saying things that we have certain products that we have too much of. Push these products even if it's not necessarily what the kids want. And Santa just looks absolutely disgusted by this. So what does he do when he goes out on the floor? He tells the kids, listen, if we don't have it, I know where other places do. And managers overhear this. And at first they're like, no, he can't be doing that. We need to do something. But then they start getting all this praise from the customers saying things that, I can't believe you have a Santa that's willing to acknowledge your competition. I'm going to start shopping here from now on if that's how you treat your customers. This is great. And so everyone, especially Miss Doris, is presented with something of a conundrum here where they have a Santa Claus that's telling them to go shop somewhere else, but the guests love it and love Macy's for it. And so what do is they go and talk to Mr. Macy, and he says, yeah, let him keep doing it. In fact, everyone start doing it now, where if we don't have what they're looking for, send them somewhere else, because that's only just going to increase our business. But
that wasn't actually unheard of about 30, 40 years ago. That if you went into a store, like any time, but let's say Christmas time, not all of them, but some of them, Sears would do it. And remember, I'm talking pre-internet. Okay.
yes,
I go into Sears, they don't have the item. Okay. What would Sears salesman do, or a person working at Sears do? They would look up and say, okay, we'll see if we can find it somewhere else for you. And it
yes.
might be Kmart that has it.
R.I.P.
That wasn't really unheard of. But I would say turn of the 90s, they tend to step away from it. If we ain't got it, we either wait for a shipment or the rain check really became popular. Not that they didn't have it, but the rain check became popular. We'll put you down on the list, and since you're on the rain check, you're on the top of the list for the next item that when it comes in. So,
which, now that you put it that way, kind of seems a bit scummy as far as getting along with other businesses, because
they really should, because like I said, it's like this. If a person went to Kmart and they're shopping for a Transformer action figure, brand new, the ultimate.
no. On this channel, we only talk about GoBots.
No, oh God, no. I'll just use an example. You want this Transformer. So you go to Kmart, they don't got it. What are you going to do? Most cases, in my case, since my state's kind of small, I would say, well, I'll go to Maryland, or I go to Pennsylvania. Maybe they'll have it at their store. That would be a big no-no, because you're now taking the money, even if it was spent at a Sears, say they instead send me to the neighborhood Sears instead, you're taking the money out of the region and put it in another region where that even tax benefit ain't going to help them. So you see, in the grand scheme of things, you want to keep things local, even if it's a major corporation. Taking having me go leave that Kmart and go to another Kmart in another state is taking away from the community that they're there at.
Of course.
In the grand scheme of things, you want to keep it there, even if it's not your company. I like I said, I can remember going and my dad going to get a television when I was a kid, and the TV that was on sale, they were sold out. And they would say, okay, well, let me call one further down in the state. They had it, They now would have been closer if they would have called, say, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it would have actually been closer for us. But saying going downstate keeps the money in my state. And then also we have a benefit, no sales tax. So
right.
Plus for me. And the thing is, the next time I go to the store, if it was done today, is just like you said, I'll be more inclined to go to that store because if they don't have the item, they would at least try to help me find it where it's at.
Of course.
And that's might not be a big deal today, but I can tell you when the Cabbage Patch Kids craze, where people were going to war, I kid you not, Paul, mothers were fighting kids, mothers were fighting other mothers, men were fighting women and children just to get their hands on a Cabbage Patch doll. Yes. It was insane.
Wow.
Insane.
Yeah. So getting back into this, like I said, however, throwing a wrench into all of this is the fact that Mrs. Walker discovered that on Santa's employment card, he has listed on it Kris Kringle as his name, North Pole as his birthplace, and so on and so forth. And she thinks he's crazy for this. And so she sends him in to go for a psych evaluation at their company psychiatrist. And he goes in and answers the questions correctly, but basically offends the doctor because not only is he not taking the examination seriously, he's even questioning the doctor on certain things. And so basically he says, yeah, you need to get rid of this guy. And so again, they're faced with a dilemma. Do we believe the psychiatrist that says he's crazy, or do we believe Mr. Macy that says he's good for business? Ultimately, they side for Mr. Macy, and they let him have his job back. And during the course of him working there, we see some other, we'll say, inexplicable, whichever word, things that happen. For example, all of a sudden knowing how to speak Dutch to a girl that had immigrated to the U.S. and was living with adopted parents, and she only spoke Dutch. And here he is able to speak Dutch just out of the blue and able to make a connection with her. And aside from things like that, he's starting to break through the shell that Susan had put up and is basically having to teach her how to be a kid instead of being so cynical about things. Like we see, like he basically has to teach her how to play pretend. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the actor, Mr. Edmund Gwenn, that played Santa, because he pretty much did it all in this movie, from playing Santa in a super serious way that, again, I wasn't used to being able to get down on kids' levels and connect with them, whether it was, as simple as having a kid sit on his lap and asking him what he wants for Christmas, to teaching Susan how to play pretend. And the actor, Mr. Gwenn, he was super believable about this.
He looked like Santa, and acted like your ideal Santa.
Exactly. And here's the thing, too. Aside from those instances of things that happen that really aren't explained, they don't go over the top with the magic. And real quick, we have a VIP in the chat. We have Old Man. Old Man, the link to join the stream, the link to join the stream is in the top. I would especially love to hear your thoughts on this movie, since you have some field expertise yourself.
Notice he said a fancy word there. He's breaking out the fancy words to bring you on, Old Man.
What are you talking about? I use fancy words sometimes.
I don't get fancy words. I get on here.
Well, anyways, continuing on. There unfortunately comes, I want to say Santa was, I want to say he was provoked into it, but at some point he gets into another confrontation with the psychiatrist, and he calls out the psychiatrist pretty much as what he is. He is, Old Man says, I need 3 more minutes before I jump in. Okay, take your time, man.
Just throw a t-shirt on. We don't care if you don't have clothes. We won't see it. Just your t-shirt will be fine.
Don't listen to him. But yeah, he pretty much calls out the psychiatrist for who he really is, a heartless, soulless scumbag. And at some point, the psychiatrist takes a hit to the head from Santa Claus's cane. And remind me, Phil, did Santa intentionally hit him, or was it something where he made it look intentional, but it was really an accident?
I think personally that's left up to the person to decide. I personally think it was intentional. I think he was, how can you put it nicely? Maybe thinking, yeah, I noticed, I seen it. It's okay. It's all good. I think it was intentional, but I had other people that watched it with me and said, no, it wasn't intentional. So
yeah,
I think it's left up for you to interpret. Was Santa making a statement by doing that? And if he did it, was he doing it intentionally or not intentionally? I say he was doing it intentionally.
I think, and this is not to disagree with you, Phil. I do genuinely think, yes, he was very passionate in how he was speaking to the psychiatrist. But based off how that actor was playing Santa, I do not believe he would intentionally raise a fist to hurt someone. I think he was just too pure a soul for that. And here he is to hurt someone. And he has too pure a soul for that.
You're on echo.
Here he is to hurt someone.
Oh man, you got to close the YouTube. You're on the
pure soul for that.
You're on echo.
Yeah, we can hear ourselves in the background.
Oh man, you got to close the YouTube.
I'm trying to figure out where it's on.
You're on echo.
Yeah, we can hear ourselves in the background.
Oh man, you got to close the YouTube.
I'm trying to figure out where it's on.
There we go. We got it.
I found it. It was hidden.
Awesome.
Technology doesn't belong with old people. It makes us show our age.
Well, anyways, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Now, as far as Santa whapping the psychiatrist on the head with his cane, you got to remember this was after a pretty derogatory go-around.
Mm-hmm.
And also, really, big part was the psychiatrist was taking cheap shots at kids.
Yeah,
Don't
he was.
ever tick off Santa by picking on the kids.
Yeah. Again,
And remember,
going back
good
to
old
that
Santa.
one. Again,
Good old
going back to
Santa.
that one clip I showed you, with the kid being made to cry because the Santa made fun of him for wanting a Nerf gun.
Yes. No, and you got to remember now too, one key to this is anybody that knows what was going on, the little girl was Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Over there, Sinterklaas has a black slave companion who goes with him
Oh.
around. Santa will put treats into these shoes of the good kids,
Mm-hmm.
and the black slave puts switches into the shoes of the bad ones.
That I didn't know.
Now,
Even in Europe, each country, believe it or not, has their own version and tradition of Saint Nicholas.
Mhm.
For me in Italy, Saint Nicholas isn't Santa Claus doesn't deliver the toys on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve, excuse me. It's a witch that delivers the toys on Christmas Eve. Yeah, so our take on it is totally different than what you would get from the Dutch. Or you have to remember a lot of these countries that went Protestant, like England, did away with it for hundreds of years.
Oh.
They had to reinvent what their tradition of Santa Claus was. So who did they borrow from?
Father Christmas.
Yep. They borrowed from further back traditions of different ones and molded into them. So
That's why Father Christmas was kind of a drunk in England.
So yeah, let me ask. So we were just talking about it, Phil, or sorry, old man, when you came on, but the scene where Santa hits the guy over the cane, we were talking about how it looks like it could have been intentional, but there's a little bit of doubt left there where it could have looked like, you know, the psychiatrist manipulated him into hitting him. What do you think?
It is really a case of where that part was left up to. But if you take a look at Edmund Gwynn's eyes when he does it, he was like, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so because of this, Santa gets arrested and committed to an insane asylum because he intentionally answers the psych evaluations wrong. And this, oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, a little side interference here on the.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm trying to be nice, you know.
Hey, no, that's perfect. That's perfectly fine.
Paul, he even wore red suspenders. Wasn't he? Anything more?
That is true. So this all pretty much brings about the biggest conflict of the movie, and that is the big trial to determine whether Santa Claus is indeed Santa Claus. And you have the people that do not believe he's Santa Claus, represented by, in this case, the state of New York. And then you have Santa himself, who, of course, says that he is, represented by Mr. Gailey, with the support of both of the Walkers, who now believe he is Santa Claus. And they offer, and both sides offer all the evidence that they can, but ultimately what settles the case is all of the letters that kids write.
Don't forget how the attorney for John Payne, for, of course, Santa Claus, got a shot at the prosecutor by asking his daughter.
Yeah. Wait, no, it was his son.
Was it the son? I can't remember.
It was the son. Yes.
But I know
it was his son. He's like, yeah, Santa Claus is real. Daddy told me so. And he walks out. He's like, bye, Daddy.
Yeah.
He's like,
and the look on his face was worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And Paul, just remember, you mentioned the state of New York. Didn't I tell you they're evil up there in New York? They tried to do that to Santa Claus.
Yeah.
New York City.
The city, the state, it's all bad.
Not the whole state. There are some good people there. They did vote in some Republicans, remember?
Back in the day,
That is true.
No, currently.
Oh, yeah, they did win some up there the other time. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Getting off of that subject. This is
on this one, remember the altercation between the judge and his campaign officer.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of missed that one where the judge is sitting there going, "Oh," and his campaign officer with that big cigar just da 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 da.
Yes. Basically saying, how is it going to look that you have to decide this case as to whether or not Santa Claus is who he says he is?
Yeah.
So, what ultimately decides the case for Santa in Santa's favor is they bring in sacks upon sacks full of letters from the post office, which they make major emphasis that that is a branch of the federal government.
Government.
And they bring in sacks upon sacks of letters that kids wrote to Santa.
And
And
it's
that was
illegal
enough to
for them
prove
to
it.
deliver to the wrong person.
Exactly.
I used to work for the post office, not for a long period of time, but part time when I was back in when I got out of high school. And when certain individuals mail the Christmas, Dear Santa, North Pole with the stamp, they literally have to send it to a certain place. And if I remember, I'm not sure if it's in DC or not. And it all goes there, and they actually have people that open and answer, some cases answer
Yes.
the thing. Do you know it's illegal, even though it doesn't technically have a legitimate address? If it has a stamp, it's illegal for anybody to open that letter. Even if a
Wow.
parent got that letter, say they send it back, return to sender, and the
Mhm.
parent takes it and opens it. Not that there's a magical group of police that are from the post office, but technically, that's illegal. If it's not addressed to you or to the person it's being sent to, you cannot open that letter.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that they were trying to figure out a way to send it to either the North Pole, Alaska, or the North Pole in what is it, in Illinois or someplace. They've got a town that's called North Pole.
Well, yeah, but there's two, and like I said, they want to try to get. Post office does a wonderful job. They want to try to get it where they can just open it and find a way where they can say, okay, we can either email the parents and say this is what's in the letter, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but try to do it legally. Because again, it's still a certified a letter. Let's put it to you this way: even if a kid just wrote a letter with a stamp and it says Santa Claus, it doesn't even say North
Yeah.
Pole, it's still a legal letter. It's still legal.
Yes.
Yeah, they can't even burn it. The
No.
post office, there were cases, the stacks of them would just build up and build up. They couldn't burn it, couldn't destroy it. Same
That's
thing goes for the Easter Bunny.
That's why in the movie they said the post office guys goes, they got Santa Claus on trial. No, then the other one comes back and says, how many letters do we have in the dead letter? And
Yeah.
and they decided, yeah, he's Santa, send them to him.
There you go.
It's
You
legal.
have to remember, Paul, this is before where people decided to go to court and change their name legally to Santa Claus. That's something new in the last 40, but yeah, I'll say 40 years.
I believe it's.
I know a guy that's got his name legally changed to Kris Kringle.
So, moving on with that, after the trial, everyone's celebrating. However, the girl, Susan, is upset because she asked Santa for something. And this was like the make or break as to whether or not, in her own words, this was the make or break as whether or not he really was Santa or just a nice man that looked like Santa. She wanted a house for her to live in instead of an apartment. And it seemed like Santa couldn't deliver. But as Mr. Gailey and Doris and her daughter are leaving, he hands them this address that sends them out to the suburbs. And at first they're like, wait a minute, what's this random house doing for sale? But they look, and by the fireplace sits Santa's cane.
It's the exact house that the kid wanted.
Yes.
The exact house. She jumps out of the car and runs in with the two adults, and they're going, oh, blah, 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 blah. And they follow because the house is open. And they go inside. They see the cane sitting there. And, of course, John Payne turns around. And he looks at the lady in question and says, maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing.
Fair enough.
I know that movie is now. Oh, by the way, this is an interesting side note. That is the first time ever a movie caused a book to be written.
Really?
Yes, and I have it. I can't find it. I know it's right over in this bookcase right over here.
Is it like an actual novelization of that story?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Miracle on 34th Street, the book.
That is crazy. Wow. So yeah, this movie, again, I don't think I've ever done this for a movie before, but I'm giving this one 10 out of 10. This was a perfect movie. And I'm even going to go as far as to say that the Santa Claus in this movie is now my favorite Santa of any movie because, like I said, it's a more serious and dignified portrayal of Santa. And yes, there is that Christmas magic to him, all those unexplained things that he can do. But compared to other versions of Santa that I've seen, Tim Allen's version, the Rankin Bass version, the magic is more downplayed. Where you could see it as he is just a guy that's playing the role of Santa, and these are just coincidences, or you could see it where he is 100% through and through Santa, but he's working his magic in subtle ways.
The only controversy with this movie has nothing to do actually with the acting or development of the movie. It's years later, like I told you before, when Mr. Turner was turning a lot of black and white movies into color.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people at that time in the mid-'80s when it was happening that did not want this movie to be touched.
Right.
They wanted it to remain black and white. And
They
Mr. Turner, he thought, and God bless him, I can understand it, that the younger generation would not understand the movie being in black and white.
The one thing that most people don't understand is if you watch the color version and the black and white version, the impact is really quite different. And the biggest
I watched the
impact
black
you
and
have,
white version.
yes, and the biggest impact you get is from the black and white because they didn't have the color to work with. They had to be more visually descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
for me, I've seen both. And yeah, the original black and white is the only one for me. And that is the movie that really honestly made me dream of being this.
Of course.
Getting close.
Edmund Gwynn tore my heart apart while he was being attacked and everything else as Santa Claus in there, that as a little kid I was crying. How could they do this? This is Santa. And I've seen Mr. Edmund Gwynn in other movies like Mr. 880, which is another unbelievable movie where he just owns the movie. Doesn't matter who the big shots are in the movie. Edmund Gwynn was supposed to be the second tier actor in there, the character actor. Well, he owned this movie, and he owned Mr. 880, which is really unique because Mr. 880, according to the movie's going, he is the world's the U.S. Treasury Department's oldest counterfeiter. Wow. They've been after him for many, many, many years, and they can't catch him. So they send a Treasury agent in to find him in the neighborhood. And
it was that the counterfeiter. I'm not sure if it's him, but was that the counterfeiter that literally could draw by hand the currency of the United States?
No, that was a real character there. But this one here, he and his wife got some printing plates made by a guy that worked at the U.S. Treasury. And hence, they're perfect, except for Washington is misspelled. And what happened to Mrs. Washington's, he doesn't know, he can't remember, but he's got that one yet.
Gotcha.
And
So I just added Mr. 80 to my list, and I'm going to rank this one. This one, Wrath of Khan has been at the top for the longest time, but finally, Wrath of Khan is getting dethroned as the #1 movie.
well, thank you for that. I appreciate that no end. I've always considered that one of the greatest
absolutely
movies.
deserves it. It is.
Edmund Gwynn was one of the most incredible actors. He was a character actor, but he just, in every movie he did, you had tremendous sympathy for him.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, there was a 10 Little Indians. I can't remember what, I think it was called Then There Were None, which was Agatha Christie's, where they're killing off all the people and that.
Yeah.
And you get to the bad guy. Well, guess who the bad guy was in that one?
Mr. Gwynn.
Edmund Gwynn. That so took the wind out of my sails. I couldn't believe it. And I thought afterwards, that was genius. I mean, the whole explanation at the end for why he was doing all this, but whoever came up with that, it was total genius. I just, whoa, wait, me.
Yeah,
And once again, Edmund Gwynn carried the whole thing.
I believe it. Now, as great as Miracle on 34th Street was, in fact, it's perfect. But as good as that movie is, to me at least,
the way I graded
this movie tops it.
In some ways.
So, It's a Wonderful Life. Now, Dad, when he found out that I was covering this movie, told me that I should cover the movie Family Man along this one. I didn't have time to watch both today, so we're going to cover Family Man next week. But tonight we're going to cover It's a Wonderful Life. And this movie is a Christmas movie, but not in the way that the previous two movies were. Because I don't see it as a movie about Christmas. I see it as a movie about one man's life and the impact that he has made on other people. It's just set at Christmas. Does that make sense?
No. You got to remember, it took place at Christmas when he was in the dumps.
Mm-hmm.
One of the times of the year, depression. He is in horrible,
That is
unbelievable
true.
dumps. And then the banking thing and everything else for him, this was total destruction.
Yeah.
At this time of the year. There is no mercy. There is no God. Aisha was never born.
Yeah. So let's walk through this
I don't want to
movie.
think about these movies.
It's okay.
These
So
were
let's
two
walk-
movies for myself. I watched with my parents every Christmas. Even to this day, if it's on TV, I'll watch it with my mom. Sit back and watch it. If it's on, I'm watching it. Everything else comes second. To me, when you say Christmas and you want to use entertainment, movies in particular, these are 1A, 1B. Now, how you describe 1A, 1B, everybody's different. But to me, they're too close, too great of a,
If the
For
two of them are
Christmas-
showing at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch Miracle on 34th Street. If they
Yeah.
aren't,
I agree.
what? I'm going to be hanging on this one.
I mean, to me, it's the equivalent. These two movies are to Christmas what the Ten Commandments is to Good Friday, Jewish Passover,
Which I
and
do not. Which I got to
Easter.
be honest, I don't understand that.
What?
Because
Which one?
why watch the Ten Commandments at Easter when it
It
has nothing
happened
to do with
on
the biblical
the
account?
equivalent. It happened on Good Friday. That's Passover. Uh, that's their equivalent. That's when it actually
Uh,
happened. You know.
okay, but I
That's why he had
still
to die before sunset, because if he didn't, they'd have to break his legs so that he would suffocate.
okay. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you're right about that. But I'm still not getting the. And we'll talk about that
Okay.
another time. But yeah, basically, I don't get the connect between tell the story of Moses around Easter. But
Because
like I said, that's a
Passover. That's why.
conversation for another time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I know that there's something out there, Paul, that you might want to go looking for. It's
mhm.
on YouTube, but it's comparing Moses to Jesus and the importance of the two figures in the history of religion. In other
Okay.
words, Christianity and Judaism.
And saying
So,
this, you can almost put it in the same way at the time of Christmas. You have to remember Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas, Christ's Mass, is to
Yes.
celebrate his birth, not saying it's his birthday. Never said it. Catholicism never says it's his birthday. It's
right.
celebrating his birth, because nobody can know to this day, they lost it over time, when Jesus was born.
They
And
figure it was in the fall of the year.
yeah, it more likely was during the summertime. God's honest truth, more in summer. I don't think he was born in the winter.
No,
But
not winter. I'm saying in the fall.
yeah,
At the end of summer, it started fall.
but when you celebrate Christ's Mass, you have to remember, even though Catholicism started it, other denominations at that time when it started, Orthodox, they weren't under the Pope.
No, they broke away.
The Eastern churches, like you would call Armenian, Coptic, they also took Christmas. So it like, just like I told you, during the start of Protestantism, they stopped celebrating Christmas. But then 200-300 years later, it came back with a fury. You know, when you see Christmas, our Christmas today, how it's being celebrated, has a lot to do for back in the 1800s, where Christmas made a comeback. Before that time, if you went to the time like 17, like the time of Washington, it was not celebrated. It was considered too Catholic to be celebrated.
Makes sense.
So
So let's
sometimes
get on.
things come back.
You're right. Let's go ahead and get on, though, with talking about It's a Wonderful Life. So the movie centers around a man named George Bailey.
Yep.
But the movie doesn't actually start with him. It starts with the community, with everyone that he knows praying for him. And these prayers get heard by these three angels, who then send an angel in training named Clarence
Yeah, Clarence.
to go and save him from making the worst decision that he could possibly make, taking his own life. And the deal is that if he does this, he will. Say again?
Clarence was the comic relief.
Yes.
He was. And the agreement was that if he was able to help out George Bailey, he would get his wings. But in order to know how properly to help him, he is shown some pretty significant snapshots of moments in George Bailey's life, starting when he was a kid, and he was sledding with his brother and his friends near this frozen pond, and his brother falls through the water, and George dives in to save him, but in doing so, he gets sick in a way that deafens completely his left ear. And that is important for later in the story.
Yes.
And we see that he works, as a kid, he works at this drugstore. And the guy that he works for is a very bad, suffering alcoholic.
Yes.
And he's an alcoholic that's drunk on the job, and he's a pharmacist, and you can only
Yes.
imagine how bad that mixes.
Oh,
And
I know, because we had one in the town where I grew up.
can only imagine.
Hmm?
And George basically is given these tablets to deliver to a mother for her kid, but George has the wherewithal and the attention to detail to notice that the pharmacist accidentally put poison in the tablets, and if he could deliver those tablets, it would kill the kid, and so he doesn't deliver them. And this causes, the pharmacist to go into a rage until he realizes his mistake, and then he's all sorry and he apologizes for hitting him. We also find out that during his work, he knows these two girls, one named Violet, who is the pretty girl, we'll say, and then the other named Mary, who's the nice girl. And the best way that I can put it is that George always had the crush on Violet, but Mary was there for him when he needed it.
Mhm.
Does that sound about right?
Yep. No argument here. What about you, Phil? Phil. Come back, Phil.
Phil, I'm going to play Skyrim after this is over.
I'm back. Sorry.
That
I was
got
talking-
him.
Did it?
No, somebody was talking to me. I was nice. I didn't want you guys to interrupt. But no argument here.
Fair enough.
Now, if
We
I
also
may
have-
interject here, I want
Go
to let you know everything I've got to say about this is influenced from what I said earlier.
Yes.
And that was the fact that we had in our town a pharmacist who was an alcoholic. His wife was a junkie, and he was her pusher.
Yeah, that
And
is.
everybody knew it in town. Everybody knew it in town. And everybody was really fearful when they got prescriptions filled. But we had 2 drugstores. And unfortunately, the other drugstore, the druggist there was kind of,
So he wasn't any better.
well, he did a real good job. He's just snooty and condescending and what have you.
Oh, I thought you were talking about cocaine.
No.
Okay.
He didn't do drugs. He was just one of these, I'm up
Oh,
here.
he looked. So he was the Mr. Potters almost of your community,
Yeah.
as far as how he treated people.
And it just, I grew up with that. And Miracle on 34th Street did one thing for me. This movie did a whole different thing because some of the people that got in there,
Mhm.
I was with them. I was alive and around them. And I could see this. And yeah, that affected my feelings about the movie. And I'm sorry I interrupted you there. But I
No,
just wanted
this
to
is great.
interject that because that's going to affect anything I got to say about the movie.
Hey, that is perfectly fine, and honestly, I welcome that point of view. So, continuing on, we also see that George's dad runs something called the Bedford Falls Building and Loan, where, to put it as simply as I can, it's basically a way for the poor people to own and build their own homes, and basically they do their loan through his dad's company in ways that they can afford. That way they can still have, the dignity of being a homeowner instead of just being a rent serf to the rich snooty guy of the community, Mr. Potter.
You had to remember why they started loan companies. Before that, you only had banks, and banks weren't very kind to loans. When you did a loan to a bank, you better have darn near a quarter of what you're asking for in some type of collateral. If you didn't have the collateral, a bank isn't going to give you the loan.
Right.
Or you were asking for too much that they didn't feel you were worth. So you could then go to a loan, they call we're a loan company that we call today, and they will give you the loan, but they're going to charge you double, maybe even triple the interest.
Yes.
But that's what you had to deal with back in the day. Credit was valuable and it wasn't easy to get, and it was hard to maintain. Today, you can get bad credit. 7 years later, you can be back in good credit. Back then, you mess up on a loan payment or you default, banks ain't going to give you the money. You had no choice to go.
About this is, Phil, the one thing you're missing, Phil, is when this movie was made. What year?
1946.
And what were the conditions then, right after the war?
It wasn't that good
Oh,
because
yeah.
it wasn't a depression, but it was,
Yeah.
They were
People
recovering
were
from the
still
cost
looking-
that it took to fight that war.
You had to
were
remember
still
the
recovering
companies.
from
I
depression.
wasn't there. I go by what I knew from family members that were there. My father, aunts, uncles. You get this hear this saying, well, the country went into a golden age, and that's why the 50s were so great. There was a problem right after World War II, 46 and 47. Most of them factories that were manufacturing cars, they were manufacturing tanks, jeeps, airplanes. It takes a while before you can reconfigure for manufacturing cars, manufacturing radios, and such.
If I may here put in, and Phil, you may remember this. Okay, you got 1950, 45, and everything's supposed to come back. What were the 1946, 47, 48, and 47 and 48 cars look like?
The same as the old models that were before the war.
Yes. It wasn't until 49 that General Motors and Ford Motor Company and Dodge all came out with new vehicles.
Yep.
They were radical. And some of those cars that came out, like the 49 Ford, was a piece of crap. Dodge was the same, and General Motors, same. They had a lot of cars that year that, on a 49 Ford, you could literally pull the door handle right off of it. On a Buick, if you close the door too hard, you could actually break the window.
My dad had a 49, believe it or not, Studebaker.
Oh, nice car. I like them.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I didn't live at that time, unfortunately, but like I said, I had a lot of family members that did. And like they said, I had an uncle that went into the army for World War II, came back. He worked for a steel company making steel. Well, there was a lot of steel. There was a lot of vehicles, the tanks that didn't get sent overseas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had to turn around, and they all had to be scrapped.
Yes.
All had to be scrapped. So the steel mill factory, in a sense, was working night and day, but the actual steel, it took time to scrap. So the workforce didn't kick back up to, like you were saying, 49 and 50. And everything was made at that time, toys, steel, metal. There were metal toys.
Yes, I've got
a while before all that. The growth and the economic boom after World War II didn't, like I said, that 46 to about 49, it wasn't a boom yet. It was after that point in time, it was a boom. You couldn't even get a new car. You couldn't. Good luck trying to find a new car that was made during or right after World War II.
You were on a waiting list.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you had to pay whatever the dealer wanted to sell it to you for.
There were no negotiations. Paul, it was similar, and I not hate to use this term, it was similar to how it was done in communist Eastern Europe and Russia. You were put on a list, and whenever that car is available, even though you paid for it, whenever that car gets available, then you're handed to you. In Eastern Europe and Russia, sometimes it took 3 years to get that car.
And on top of it, you paid for the car that's coming in, It comes in, but some guy comes in and offers the dealer more money than what you paid for it. He gets it, and you go back on the list to get.
Wow.
It wasn't
So
painted the way that they painted in our history books. Let's just say that.
I
I
believe
lived
that.
through it. I know it.
So getting back to the movie, it always was a big sticking point that Mr. Potter either wanted for himself or wanted to shut down the building and loan because it was essentially taking away business from him. He was making money off people that, without the building and loan, couldn't afford to own their own house and therefore had to go to him for rent or any other financial help that they needed, which he would then, I'm sure, charge a lot of interest for. And George's dad and Mr. Potter had very public arguments about this. Well, fast forward to when George is now a young man in his early 20s. And he is on the cusp of getting ready to make a life for himself. And he has these huge dreams. Bless you. He even, tells these dreams during a scene to Mary, how he wants to see the world. He wants to go to college. He wants to be this grand architect. He wants to basically big cities. He wants to build airfields and all of this huge grand stuff. Ultimately, he wants to get out of Bedford Falls. And real quick, Crits, hello, who says, good movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Yep. And Crit, as always, if you're able to join, the link is in the top of the chat. So, does this end up happening? Unfortunately not, because one night, unfortunately, he gets the news that his father has a stroke and dies. And the moment that his father dies, the building and loan nearly slips into the grasp of Mr. Potter, but the board of directors, which Mr. Potter is part of, just so he can have his own say in it, the board of directors pretty much votes in favor of making George Bailey the head guy of the building and loan, which at first he doesn't want to. But Crit is now in here. Oh, and I see that he has Lemmy.
Oh, Crit, hello.
As his thing. I like that.
Hello.
Phil, stare deeply into that facial mole and bask in the metal awesomeness that is Lemmy Kilmister.
Well, you got the cavalry sabers, but it doesn't say what unit.
I don't think Lemmy cared. Obviously, we're talking It's a Wonderful Life, but before we go any further, do you want to shoot on the first two movies, which was A Christmas Story Christmas and Miracle on 34th Street?
The first movie, I did not see the sequel as I'm not subscribed to HBO Max anymore. I saw the original film. That's a classic. It's actually, unfortunately, the original movie I put in my pet peeves of Christmas lists, where it's a movie that's overplayed. Yeah, I have a invisible list called the pet peeves of Christmas list, where things that are overplayed during Christmas come in, and I put that in there, and I don't really want to watch them as much as I did growing up. Unfortunately, the first Christmas Story is in that category because whenever it's Christmas time, it's always everywhere. And nothing against that movie, but I think it's over commercialized as a Christmas classic, which is fine, But I can only stand it. I can only stand like quoting it, like, "Oh, you'll shoot your eye out like 1,000 times." So
fair enough.
But the sequel I did want to go watch, but I'm at a disadvantage here, so I didn't see the new one. So Miracle on 34th Street. I would say, of the three we're talking about, I would say it's my favorite, mainly because of the actor who plays Santa Claus, who is just the brightest spot in the universe.
Absolutely.
He makes that movie for sure, because how he acts. And Mr. John Hammond, Jurassic Park in the remake. No offense to him, he's great too, but he is nothing compared to the original.
No.
Who, yeah, the part where he speaks, I think, was it Dutch?
Dutch.
Yes.
Yes. That brights my day watching that. And the good old what's her name? Is that Catherine? Is it Maureen O'Hara?
Yes.
Feisty as ever, the Irish woman of the a lot of good movies that you gotta watch her in.
Oh yeah, with John Wayne.
And now, but that's a movie I enjoy watching every year. Now, It's a Wonderful Life. I would say, while my personal favorite is Miracle on 34th Street, I think the better movie of all the three of these is It's a Wonderful Life, because of its message. And it is, I think, if anyone has a bad day or is in a depression or is, having just, at the lowest point in their life, I think that movie will brighten their day. It's a movie I think is therapy. Regardless if it's Christmas or, funny enough, back in the day, a lot of these movies didn't come out for Christmas. The Miracle on 34th Street came out in the summer, and they hid the fact that it was a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But this is a movie I could say you could watch any other. And this is a Christmas movie I think you could not need to watch exclusively in December. You could watch it any time of the year, I think, because the message is strong and pretty much. Even from a biblical standpoint, from a faith standpoint, this movie reigns. This movie just reinforces that belief of kindness, gentleness, and innocence, as I should say. This is the movie I think you could define as kindness, as It's a Wonderful Life, and I think you're at the part where his father passed away.
Yes, where his dad where his dad passes away, and he's just been handed the business. And like I said, at first he doesn't want it, but he decides, for the good of the business, and he does not like Mr. Potter. He stays, gives up his chance to go to college, and takes on the business.
Now, if I can interject here, what happened up to this point was occurring basically before World War II. Now, in the movie, for modern day people, they really underplay and twist around and play games with it. They did that for a reason, because everybody that was watching this movie was there before, in the early days of this. And they understood all of this stuff, and they knew it was being played games with, not negatively, but that it wasn't being depicted in entirety, because that was just the prelude to what was going to come. And people watched it knowing all the stuff before that was bad. They knew it. They didn't need it, it pontificated on it. They simply needed it to be there to remind them that, this is what started it. We today, unfortunately, we didn't live through that like they did. So we don't really comprehend and understand everything that was going on then. And I'm sorry for that, because even I don't, because I came after that.
Mhm.
But
No, it's
fathers and what? I'm sorry, Crit. What?
the thing about this movie. I think the best is that we see his point of view, George's point of view. He never realizes how much he gives other people. And after this movie, you hear it's mentioned, but he gave his college tuition to his brother.
Yeah, he gives his college tuition to his brother. It stays to run the business, at least at first, to keep it out of the hands of Mr. Potter. But soon he actually starts doing a good job at the business, running it much like his father does. It's also worth noting here that his uncle runs the business with him, and it's important to the story that his uncle is very forgetful. Like, forgetful to the point that he'll tie string around his finger to remember something and then forget why he put it there. But go ahead, Crit. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you didn't cut me off. But throughout the movie, you get things like that. Like, a lot of people, give their thanks to George, and throughout this, George doesn't realize he thinks he's being held back as ever. But the thing he does, and this builds up towards that last 40 minutes of the movie, or last 20 minutes of the movie. This is what pretty much, you. I lost my words. I'll stop there. I think I lost my words.
Okay. It's fine. I lose my words sometimes too. So, again, we see George's life continue forward. He wants to, again, pursue a relationship with Violet, but that doesn't quite pan out, and so he ends up starting a relationship. So he ends up in a relationship, one that he didn't want at first, but he ends up in a relationship with Mary. The two end up married, the two have kids, and the two end up moving into the house where they were throwing rocks into the windows and making wishes. It was established earlier in the movie when they were sort of first chatting with each other as adults that if you throw a rock into this window and make a wish, your wish comes true. So George did that, wishing for his life of adventure that he originally wanted. Mary did it, and then later admitted that pretty much the life that she had here, living in that house with George as her husband, that's the life that she wanted. So she got her wish. So time goes on, and there seems to be a lot of financial problems that the building and loan company is having. In fact, even on their wedding day, literally as they're leaving the church from the service, they're leaving for their honeymoon, and there's a crowd around the building and loan where they had shut their doors because they had pretty much run out of money, and a whole bunch of people had money that they had invested as part of helping people get their houses that they wanted their money back. Now, side question. Does this movie take place in 1946 when it was started, or does it take place in the 30s? Because to me, this gave off, this scene here in particular, when they're saying, hey, if you got money in the bank, you better get it out now. That gave me some major Great Depression vibes right there.
You have to be corrected on that. A savings and loan is not a bank. It's not federally insured. When you go to a bank, you are federally insured up to $350,000.
Now.
Yeah. But then you weren't insured. So if you did business with the savings and loan, and let's say they closed their doors, you're still obligated to pay your loan, but you can't if you had money there, you couldn't get money out. They're not what they call it, FDIC insured.
Right.
Makes
Now,
sense.
the other part about it is that they didn't really go into. There were problems back then where there were runs on the banks, just like they were back in the 20s and 30s.
I just mean, if you watch what went on like a few years ago over in Cyprus, where the government didn't have enough money, the banks didn't have enough money, so they closed the banks, so they couldn't get money out. Same thing was happening in Lebanon. Believe it or not, the country of Lebanon uses American currency. They're not the only one, but yeah, in order to prevent the banks from failing even further, they closed the banks. There's nothing to stop that from happening here.
Excuse me.
But the thing is, if you have money in the bank, not in the savings loan, in a bank, any bank, you notice when you go in there, you see at the cashier, some of them have it, little thing that says AF DIC or IC, forget the abbreviation. It'll say you're insured, your savings account up to $350,000
Today,
government bank. And I should be also corrected. Back then, the reason why they were a lot harder was because they had to have the gold to match it. Every dollar had to have the gold. FDR switched it to a silver standard. That meant for every dollar bill you had, you were backed with $1 worth of silver. You literally could go to a Federal Reserve with $10 and say, I want $10 worth of silver.
if you had a Federal Reserve silver certificate,
I have a $10 one from 1911.
but if you have actually back then a gold certificate, they had to honor it.
Yep. Eisenhower made sure that all the gold and silver certificates and everything, technically, you should have handed it in. But I got a currency bill up there of a $10 bill silver certificate.
I got a bunch of silver certificates.
Yep. I wish I had a gold one, but I don't have one. I don't have a gold one. But all your currency was backed back then, Paul, by gold, and then it went to a silver standard. Now, what's backing your bill? What makes $10 is you, me, old man, believe that is $10.
That's right.
It's on faith. That's how they're running now, that you believe in that money. If we didn't believe that $10 was worth $10, tomorrow it could be the equivalent of $1.
Yep.
All now it's backed by is faith. They don't have the gold backing up the currency.
And the Depression was not caused, as they said, about, the money was worth nothing. No. The money was worth everything during the Depression because they were selling apples for 10 cents. Anything to get the money.
I have a question.
Just think about it. If all the currency in our country today, right now, had to be backed by gold or the equivalent of gold, do you think we have enough gold to back up every bill?
I have a question.
Good, you got a question. What is it?
Fritz.
Could someone look up during the bank run scene? Could someone look up the adjusted for deflation prices? Like after $10, someone gets $200. Like what? How much did he actually have in today's currency?
Bank run adjusted for.
I could tell you, having the dollar back then, you had money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even like today.
This is the closest thing that I can find to it. This is an article from Citizen Times that says, how much money did Uncle Billy lose in It's a Wonderful Life? Why is Uncle Billy walking around in Bedford Falls with $100,000 in cash right before Christmas? But it says it's $8,000. So basically $8,000, which that's a bit ahead of what we're talking about. But we'll go ahead and talk about that. basically, there's a scene where Uncle Billy was going to go make a deposit in the bank, but he ends up losing the money just misplaces it. Mr. Potter finds it and decides to be the bad guy and keeps it, which puts the building and loan at an $8,000 deficit. Translate that to today's money, because that was $8,000 in 1946 money. Translate that to today, you got 100K that is just missing from this business now.
Back then, a car cost $300.
Which is unheard of today.
And your
Like,
base
even a
pay,
piece of crap like what I drive, I
and
don't
your
think
base pay,
you'd
Paul,
buy for $300.
even though today we use getting paid by the hour, was still being paid by the day. So if you were getting paid by the day, like maybe $2, you were a good worker at, say, maybe construction, skyscraper work. You're getting paid $2 a day. You work 6 days a week. Yes, you work 6 days a week. You got $12. After that, taxes and everything, it was lucky you got $9 brought home. $9 was darn good money. Now think about that. $9 a week, times that by 52, and you see how the math is. Yes, inflation plays a part, but back then you didn't say, and you can do the math, what they got paid an hour.
Yeah.
But you didn't say back then, I got paid by the hour. It was, what did I get paid for the day?
Now, to give you an idea, in 1962, if you made $80 a month, not a week, a month, you could buy a brand new car and live in a nice house.
And remember,
$80 a month in 1962.
a married couple,
Wow.
the wife tend not to work.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some, but a vast majority did not work. You didn't see women really come full force into the workforce to the 70s.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying women didn't work, there were, but there was one person winning the bread, so to speak.
During World War II, all these women were in the factories working. Rosie the Riveter, da-di-da-di-da. After the war was over, these women all wanted to return back to their original roles. Screw the people think of, no. These women wanted to go back the way it was. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a caregiver. That's what they wanted. The guy got the job of earning the living to support his wife, his children, a house, and a vehicle, and food, and you name it.
So with that, by this point, George has not only his wife, but 4 kids that are all, I would say, between the ages of 8 and 4, if I was to take a rough guess. And
something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And here's where the S word really starts to hit the oscillator for Mr. Bailey, because he finds out that this money is lost, and if the bank doesn't get the money, they're going to arrest either him or Uncle Billy.
Yep.
Likely him. And so he tries to go to Mr. Potter and literally sell his dignity to Mr. Potter and saying, listen, I know I've called you these bad things in the past, but I need your help. And Mr. Potter literally laughs him out of the office, saying, I'm going to call the police for them to arrest you and then just take your company for myself.
Yeah.
And then he goes home, and he is a broken man. Literally everything that his family is doing. His family is just minding their own business. You know, he has a daughter that's practicing piano. The other kids are decorating for Christmas with their mom. He has a kid upstairs that's sick, which, to be fair, he does show genuine concern for. And, you know, she shows him this flower that she had won in school, but in the process, she got a cold. And so some of the petals fell off, and he sticks some of them in his pocket, which is important. But aside from that scene, just everything his family is doing, even though they don't mean to, is just grating on his every last nerve, and he snaps on them. And when he realizes what he did wrong, he can't even, you know, stand to be around them. So he ends up going to a bar run by his friend Martini. And he gets super bad drunk and runs into a guy that he basically cursed out his wife over the phone when he was in his broken state, gets punched in the face for it. Literally the moment after he says a prayer saying, "Please God, help me out with my finances." And all of a sudden he gets punched in the face by a dude whose wife he smack talked over the phone. And so, having nothing else to do, nowhere else to turn, he gets into his car, ends up crashing it into a tree, and goes out onto this bridge and peers down over the edge, ready to end it all. But all of a sudden, he sees that there's someone in the water crying for help. So he jumps off the bridge into the water, not to end his life, but to save the man that was already in there. And the two make their way into this little shack next to the bridge where they get warm and dry off. And the dude introduces himself as Clarence Oddbody AS2, Angel Second Class, which, just as a side note, AS2 is a real rank in the Navy. And in fact, it's not Angel Second Class. I'm gonna tell you what it really is.
Seaman.
So people it's aviation support equipment technician, AS. So yes, theoretically it is possible if you're in the Navy to be an AS2, but in that context it means airman, technician support, second petty officer, second class.
And that was done on purpose.
Yes. Just a funny aside. And so Clarence is talking to George saying, I'm an angel. I'm your guardian angel. I know all about you. And George is like, well, why were you in the water? Why you're claiming that you saved me when it was me that saved you? And he's like, no, if I hadn't jumped in, you would have jumped in yourself and tried to take your own life. So if anything, I saved you. And we have yet more bad bots in the chat.
Yeah, you got one.
How dare whoever it is that is sending these bots, how dare you send bots of that nature to a stream where we have actual Santa Claus on stream with us? So
you're gonna get coal for Christmas.
Hey, you heard it from the source himself.
Coal's expensive now. They might not give coal. They might give us something like give out something else cheap.
Well, I used to give out. Well, it depends on whether I'm giving out bituminous or whatever. Soft coal or hard coal. And then it all depends on where I put it too.
Yes. Just a funny aside. Did you ever see?
We lost Chris.
Yeah, we did. I'm gonna message him now and see if he's okay. But while I do, did you ever see these like gag gifts that people would get each other for stocking stuffers, where it's coal, but it's like a shell that contains like a toy car, or it's coal that's basically chocolate with black wrapping made to look like coal?
Yeah.
I have a Christmas ornament that says Santa wants to give you a gift, and it's a lump of coal. And it's an actual lump of coal. Real piece of coal.
You guys aren't going to believe it, but I got a big bag, 100-pound bag of coal in my garage. Real coal. Thankfully,
There
I've
he
never figured it out.
Who's
Oh, we
that
get
staring
we
in
get
the
a rare
back
face
corner?
reveal.
You've seen my face.
No,
Yes,
I
we
have
see
not.
you.
Yes, you did, Phil. We
No,
were
I
in
have
StreamYard today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're happy to certainly see your face. And
We
Green
just
Lantern, by the way,
Here's
says,
my face. I'm a guitar player.
false. Lemmy was not a guitar player. He was a bass player.
And never forget, Lemmy had a big mole on the side of his chin. Had
You're
five
right.
strange tears
Stare
that in
deep
the
into
wind
that
would
facial
blow
mole,
out and look
Phil.
like an octopus in the in the water. Yeah,
Stare
that mole.
deeply
All
into
that
that
money,
mole,
if he
Phil.
couldn't take care of the mole.
All right, so getting back into the movie. So,
Well, I love your avatar with the big stash.
yes.
Love it.
That's Lemmy. He played in
That's
a
Lemmy,
band,
Motorhead.
Motorhead. Could play good, but couldn't sing. Could not
You take
sing.
that back, Phil.
He can't sing.
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe I have to do this.
All right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back. Ever.
We do not insult the singing talents of Lemmy Kilmister on this channel.
Oh,
He couldn't sing now, and he couldn't sing then, and he couldn't sing ever.
Dude, of course he can't sing now. He passed away.
That's my whole point.
So, moving on. So, during the conversation in the movie, George is brooding to himself, with Clarence listening pretty much, about all of his problems, and eventually he comes to this idea. You know what? You're right, Clarence. Maybe I shouldn't have taken my life. Maybe it would have just been better if I had never been born. Yes. And so Clarence, after thinking about this, is like, you know what? Okay, I'll grant your wish. And we'll see just what would happen to this town if you had never been born. Now, it's important to note, just before George says this, his lip had been bleeding from where he got punched in the face by that dude. And let me remind you, his left ear was completely deaf.
Yeah.
But no sooner does he make that wish, but his lip stops bleeding and he regains hearing in his left ear. And he walks out, and all of a sudden, everything is different. People that at one point he knew and still knows,
yeah.
they don't know who he is anymore.
Yeah.
Because as far as the world is concerned, George Bailey never existed. And the town of Bedford Falls is no longer even called Bedford Falls. It's called Pottersville. So we basically see what the lives would have been like for everyone surrounding George Bailey if he had never met, if he had never been born and they had never met him. His brother would have died in that freezing pond. The drunk pharmacist would have been arrested and put out of a job because those poison pills would have actually gotten delivered and killed the kid. Martini didn't run his bar. His basically number two, Nick, ran the bar. And most tragic of all, Mary never marries, never has kids, and pretty much just lives as an old maid.
Yes.
And throughout all of this, George is trying his absolute best to reconnect with them, but everyone just looks at him like a madman. I don't know who you are. Why are you so insistent on that you know me? And, so on and so forth. And eventually he finds himself back on that bridge, pleading to Clarence, give me back my life. I don't care what happens to me after this, just give me back my life. I can't stand to be like this anymore. So Clarence grants his wish, and all of a sudden Officer Burt, who was just in something of an altercation with Mr. George, not knowing who he is, and was shooting at him, all of a sudden here he comes, and it's as if they had known each other for years again. And the moment that George realizes he has his life back, he is overjoyed beyond containing it. And he just runs. Forget his car. He runs down the street through town, repeating over and over, "Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas to the theater. Merry Christmas to the building and loan," etc., etc. He gets home and he can't let go of his wife and kids. He's so overjoyed to see them. However, the banking people and the investigators are at his doorstep waiting for him to either collect on that $8,000 or arrest him.
Yep.
But he doesn't care. He's too overjoyed that he has his life back. However, in comes his uncle with a giant container, something of that $8,000 that basically he put together with Mary as a fundraiser from all of the people that George has helped. And this all turns into a big Christmas party just right there in the house. And seriously, the house is so packed, there's no room to walk. They're just all there. And suddenly in the pile of cash, George sees a copy of Tom Sawyer that was mentioned much earlier in the movie that Clarence kept. He had his own copy of Tom Sawyer. We even see him with it. And here that book is now in the cache. And inside the front cover is a note. And I pulled this up. I'm going to read it word for word. And when I first saw this, I can't lie, I was getting really misty-eyed, which is rare for a movie to make me do that. But the note said, "Dear George, remember no man is a failure who has friends. Thanks for the wings. Love, Clarence." And the moment that happens, a little bell rings on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And his youngest, Zuzu, says, "Daddy, didn't you know that anytime a bell rings, an angel gains its wings?" And he's like, "That's exactly right." And the movie ends with the whole crowd singing the song "Auld Lang Syne," which I would do now, but my grandmother's asleep and I don't want to wake her up. So let's just go ahead and get this out of the way now, and then we'll discuss. I'm ranking this movie a 10 out of 10, and I'm going to bring my movie ranking once again onto the screen. And earlier on, Crit, I ranked Miracle 31st Street at the top, over Wrath of Khan. I ranked Christmas Story Christmas between Aliens and Conan the Barbarian. But this movie is dethroning Miracle on 34th.
No! Shame. I like 1A and 1B, but your order is wrong. I would have put Miracle on 34th Street top. Wonderful Life.
Listen, and I cannot stress this enough. It is by the slimmest of margins that I'm putting It's a Wonderful Life above Miracle on 34th Street, just simply because of the fact that it touched me and made me emotional like it did. I love Miracle on 34th Street, but to me, I just love It's a Wonderful Life just that much more.
I only have one problem with It's a Wonderful Life, and it's not huge, but enough that I put it behind Miracle on 34th Street. I don't ever want my angel or know an angel that's named Clarence. That's an awful name for an angel, Clarence. who, and what world did they name an angel Clarence?
Hey, it could be
Could you
worse.
put
You could have
both in your
an
mouth?
angel named Q.
Bill McCracken is a good name for an angel. Perfect name for an angel.
Where's the Godzilla Christmas special?
You're the Godzilla expert. You tell me.
Is the Star Wars holiday special going to be ranked above? Be ranked above It's a Wonderful Life? I wonder.
Do you want me to be tarred and feathered by the YouTube community?
You are the Star Wars guy, so I would assume you.
We are. And by the way, we are going to be talking about the Star Wars holiday special, Monday the 19th.
And just so everybody knows, Paul has no choice now. He can never go back to Phantomology because that has been taken over by old man's very own, the Baron Orrin Tag.
Yes.
He has took over the copyrights to Phantomology.
Yes, and
Great move.
Literally is chirping brat.
he has my blessing in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Now,
yes,
if
Chris.
I can interject, and I do so humbly on this one,
Of
I'm
course.
ready to be barbecued for it. The difference between the two movies. In Miracle on 34th Street, the whole part of it is it's the miracle of Christmas and the power of the magic of the season. Now,
Mhm.
in the other movie in question here, you know what the big thing is there? And people miss it over and over and over again, is how important you are as an individual and what you have done in other people's lives.
Yes.
No, you don't even imagine. You sit back and go, oh, yeah, what did I ever do? Yeah, what did you ever do? I look at mine and I caused a kid that was, he didn't know what end was up. I directed him into faith, and he's an ordained minister. He served as an army chaplain, a missionary, untold things. That's what I caused to happen. And other things I don't even want to bring up.
Mhm.
Yeah, I caused some people to be real assholes too. Sorry, I apologize.
No one,
You
no
can't
one is
punish
above the
Santa
law.
Claus, Paul.
I'm
You
sorry,
can't
but
punish
no
him.
one
I
is
mean,
above
there's-
the law.
Language, and for gosh sake, watch your language.
For a man who claims he doesn't care for the MCU, he seems to use that clip a lot. So
Get on him, Chris. Get
It was
on
from
him.
when the MCU was good.
Well,
Mhm.
my favorite expression is, instead of I kicked the blankety blank out of him, I performed corrective therapeutic mayhem.
Well, I don't know. I guess I've caused great joy in people's lives. I don't realize it, but I've also caused great pain. I manipulated Cash into watching that certain show with a snake in it, and I manipulated. And Bill manipulated Paul to watch a certain golf movie with a 2 inside.
I gotta play that clip, even though that particular show is not mentioned. I do gotta play this clip.
Hey, I can sound like Cash Money. Did you know that?
Do it.
Let's hear it.
Oh my god. No.
I was
They
not
put
ready
woke
for that.
stuff. They put woke stuff in my Star Wars.
Beautiful. I'll never forget that night.
Yes.
And
Just
I
as
have
much-
to say this on the other hand about people having an effect on your life. If I've never met Cash Money, I would have been for the better of it. Cash Money has been the root of all my evil.
Oh, really?
AKA shortchanged.
You've always been short-changed.
Cash Money's Lumpy from the holiday special.
True, I could say that. He is Wumpy. That's good, Grit. I like that one.
Well,
the one thing that I think all of us are missing is we've got two sides of us that are causing things to happen. The good side and the bad side. Who's the good side? Well, It's that guy up there. Who's doing the bad side? Guess what I'm saying? And no, not you, Lord Crit. I'm talking about the direction.
You should be pointing to your Minnesota. You should be pointing to your right. California is that evil place.
Oh, you better believe it. And there's all kinds of political, you name it, across the boards. A bunch of people in certain states want to secede from them. Texas wants to secede from the Union. It's just unbelievable, the turmoil that's going on, and who's causing it. Well, obviously, the people that are wanting all this different are avoiding bad guys. They want to go with what they hope to be the good guys. And that's basically what we all hope for. The ultimate thing on Christmas, please sit back and remember one important thing. It's about God.
The important thing. Like Phil McCracken getting his coupons.
Phil, we had an agreement about that.
I got my coupons from the Good Son. Michael is sending me Burger King coupons.
Yeah, but he's waiting. Yeah, but he's waiting on a response from you.
He's waiting for an address, and I'm trying to get a place where I can send them. You can send it to a PO box. Out of his way, and I will accept his gift because he went out of the way to get my coupons.
It isn't PO Box 666, is it?
Oh no.
So I have a stream challenge for. I was gonna do a stream, but I have no computer, so I'm gonna have to use Cash or someone to host a StreamYard for moi.
Oh yeah.
I want us to review the 3 free Christmas carols, not the one that Cash is doing with Mike is doing with George C. Scott. There's 3 Christmas carols. There's the one is Scrooged with Bill Murray. Who is the Jim Carrey version that came out not too long ago. And then the third one, which I think is the Gret Best. But I'll let you guys decide.
What's the third one
is
again?
The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Can I toss a fourth option in there, if you don't mind?
It better not be the Patrick Stewart version. Or we going to war?
It's the Patrick Stewart.
No, I will not watch it. No, I will not support it. No.
But Phil.
I just realized.
But Phil, what's not to love?
God bless me.
Or this picture.
No, I can deal with that one. That's how.
Or this picture.
No, that's hard. That scared children. Children all over the world are horrified to see that.
If you showed that, that'll make George want to jump off the bridge.
That's dark.
You want to know one that really send people into nightmares forever? It's Santa Claus at a nudist beach.
I will say this, Paul. You need to stream. I don't know if you can find it, but the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
The Rankin Bass one?
Yes, the one that has Burl Ives in it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that
is a Christmas. That's up there with the other 2 movies that we just watched. And the other one, the fourth one, is a Peanut Christmas Carol with Snoopy.
A Peanuts so this is different than a Charlie Brown Christmas.
It's the same one.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
There's also besides the Christmas carols, which if we did this stream, we'll vote. But I think I like the free ones I picked, and we'll do the fourth one, the Patrick Stewart, and much to Phil. We'll probably get sick of the Scrooge story by then. But there is this short film. I don't want you to look it up. There is this Disney short that no one has ever really heard of, ever. It's been hidden in time, and I found it on Disney Plus. and I grew up with the VHS, and I was surprised. There is a Christmas short that Disney made called The Small One. I would like us to talk about that one.
Okay.
But do not look it up.
Take no offense, but I won't be that one. I won't be there for that one because I am done with Disney. Anything
I
to
am
do with
too.
Disney. I'm pretty out with Disney.
This is a short. This is from the 70s, and I wouldn't even consider it Disney short because do you know who Don Bluth is?
Yes.
He directed. He used to work for Disney, and this is probably the only thing he did for Disney. I will tell you, Phil, you will probably want to give this one the exemption, even if it is Disney, because I was surprised they had it on Disney Plus. Of all the things they had on Disney Plus, they had this, and they did not edit it in whatsoever.
I probably had already seen it, but like I said, nothing against anybody. I don't want to deal with anything Disney. If it's Marvel, Star Wars, nothing. I'm done. I'm out. My official thing's been done for months. Yeah. I don't care if
I'm
they make
telling you, Phil,
good.
this will make you smile.
No. Probably would
The
because it was
small-
older Disney, but again, I am done with Disney just as a whole. I just don't want to be bothered by it. I'm old school, and Baron can probably understand it. When you're
This
done
is
with the
old
company,
school, though.
when you're done with the company and you're tired of their shenanigans, you just say enough's enough and you walk away. You know, I can't. I'm not one of them people. I'm going to pick and choose. Look, if I went to a Ford dealership and a car is bad, but the tires were great, the car's still bad. And if you don't justify your customers and you don't take care of your customers, you're eventually going to walk away. I walked away. Somebody else will want me watching something of theirs. You know, there's more out there than Disney. You know, shame to say. Like I said, they can come out with a new Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't care who it is. And it could be the greatest thing since Swiss cheese. I don't want nothing to do with it.
The only way I have anything to do with Disney is on cable. Disney Plus, no. I'm not subscribed to any of that. And I never will. And I'm really reluctant to subscribe to any of these stations. Oh, you got to watch this. You got to know it's so great.
This would be streamed on VC. I'll probably force Cash to do it because Cash is my minion. So I can't. Like I'm unable to
because he didn't come in here to support you.
Please understand, Crit, it's nothing against you. It's nothing against you.
I'm
Just
telling
I
you,
told this to Paul
this
months ago
will
that-
give. I'm telling you, Phil, this little short movie, you will give a pass on. Your hatred of Disney, because there was light in Disney.
Let me try this angle, Phil. If you did this for us, what would you like us to do for you in return?
Are you tempting the devil? You're tempting the devil, aren't you?
Yes.
Careful what you wish for, Paul. You just might get it. Never tempt the tempter. But
You
if
get
I
that?
watch it, you and Critter are going to do something for me, right?
Oh no!
Yes.
Wants your soul.
No, I wouldn't take your soul. But yeah.
He already has. He won't let me play anything other than Skyrim.
You're free to play whatever you want, but I just ask you every once in a while, put Skyrim up there. But yeah, I think we can come to some type of agreement.
All right.
I'll just let you guys know this. It won't be out of the ordinary. Nothing that's going to go against your convictions or anything like that. But yeah, I
Okay.
think I can come up with something that will suit
Feel
me.
like- I feel like the negotiations will never start. Like I'm being invited to the Trade Federation.
No, I'll make you just
Hey,
deal.
Crit, I did you a favor. I got your foot in the
I'm
door
going
for
to
ya.
watch it, Crit, but I will ask something in return after it's done. I already have an idea what I want. I'll just wait till after it's been done. I'll fulfill.
Green Lantern says you want coupons.
I'm already
And Green
getting
Lantern says, "Don't do
coupons.
it, Paul. It's a trap."
Michael it came out like a couple weeks ago. Nope, 2 weeks. He sent me a message and he said, "Guess what? No joke. I found your coupons." But he said, "I'm sorry. It's not McDonald's. It's Burger King. All I need to know is how I can get it to you." And I told him, I said, "I'm trying to get in touch with somebody that has a P.O. box where he can mail it to the P.O. box and I can get the Burger King coupons."
I could probably sing a Muppet song and put Phil's name in it. Here comes Mr. Grumpy. Here comes Mr. Phil.
I trust you guys will like it, but I will not mention it till after I fulfill my bargain.
Okay. And with that, we're going to go ahead and shut this down for the night because it's about 20 minutes to midnight for me. And for you, Phil. You're up past your bedtime.
Devil's work is never done. This is prime example.
Green Lantern says, "No written document, no proof." Paul, make sure you delete this stream. Nope. I am an honorable man.
Yeah.
I will follow through. And Nova says they're expired coupons. The only expired coupons are these. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and shut this down. So thank you, of course, to Old Man Phil and Crit for popping in here and talking about this with me. This was a great conversation about 3 great movies. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I feel like talking about another Christmas movie. In fact, this same time tomorrow night. So I don't know yet. I don't know yet what it'll be, but at 9 o'clock we will be talking about. Actually, no. I'm going to go ahead and choose. Let me see what I got on my shelf here.
And I'm going to be there, old man. Do you know why? Who knows what other deals the devil can get done that night?
Scrooge.
And remember, I didn't come to them. They came to me, old man. They wanted me to make a deal.
Okay.
The devil to make a deal.
All right. So here's what we're going to do.
With coupons?
And I didn't have to stand at the crossroads to get Paul to do anything.
All right. By request of Nova Vaughn, tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, we are reviewing Die Hard.
That's not a Christmas movie.
Yeah. That's
It's
barely
like
a
going to
Christmas
watch
movie.
Das Boat because they celebrate Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie just because you're having a little Christmas tree. No. Paul, pick another Christmas.
Well, tell you what.
Have a little fun.
We will settle the debate of whether or not Die Hard truly is a Christmas movie tomorrow night. So make sure you guys are there for that. Of course, everyone here that's currently on the panel is welcome to be part of that.
Favorite Disney Jedi or Noble Vaughn, whatever he's calling
Die
himself.
Hard
He ain't going to be there when we set up the deal after we're done watching it. So just know
Die Hard 1 and 2.
He's not going to be there.
Die Hard 1 and 2. Die Hard 1 and 2. They're both Christmas
for now.
movies.
Well,
just one for now. We'll do 2 another time.
2's more Christmas-y than 1.
We're just going to do the first one for now. But anyways, for real, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And just remember, the Force is family. See you guys later.
See what Green Lantern said at the bottom right